Hello students, here I am coming up with a new topic, that is separating solid liquid mixtures. Before we have done separating solid mixtures, uh, later I'll come up with video of that topic also, but still we got little idea regarding separating solid mixtures, how we can or how we will separate solid mixtures. So today, uh, in this chapter, that is separating solid liquid mixtures, we will discuss about the heavy insoluble solid in liquid, light soluble insoluble solid in liquid, soluble solid in liquid, and choosing the best method to separate this thing, solid liquid mixtures. In this chapter, even we will understand the different methods to separate the mixtures of solid and liquid, and we will also discuss about its applications in our daily life. So let us begin with this topic. So how we will or how we can separate the heavy insoluble solid in liquid. Okay, so this means that basically in river or somewhere, okay, in river or stream, we can see that heavy materials are suspended, or heavy materials, okay, insoluble materials down there in the liquid. So even there we can see that not along with the heavy insoluble materials, okay, there is minute soluble things, salts are there, okay, which has been dissolved in the water. So how we can separate it? We regarding that also we will discuss on that matter. So basically salt we will get from the sea, isn't it? It is in the sea, but we don't see, we can't feel it, we can't touch the salt in the water. But how we'll get that? Okay, later we get a packet of salts, okay, in our kitchen and all, we use it. So to know all about these things, okay, we will go to this topic and we will discuss it on later. So let us find out about some of the methods which help us separate mixtures of solid and liquid. So process of separation of heavy insoluble solid and liquid. The main thing is insolubility, okay, insoluble in this term, in this topic. So first, insoluble. What is insoluble? A solid that does not dissolve in a liquid is called insoluble. That a material or a thing that don't get dissolved in water, that is insoluble. Those who will get dissolved, that is soluble. So insoluble is that which do not dissolve. So basically we use sedimentation process, okay, process of sedimentation in heavy insoluble liquid. How we will use these things? Now what is sedimentation? So some solids are heavier than the liquid in which they are mixed. Yeah, so like a mud or sand, we can give the example of sand, okay. So some solids are heavier than the liquid in which they are mixed. Such insoluble heavy solids tend to settle to the bottom of the container, okay, that insoluble things now tend to settle down into a container, or if we say the seabed, okay, what we see is the big rocks. Not only in the seabed, in the river area, what we can see, the heavy rocks, boulders are settled down in the bottom of that river or stream area, isn't it? Because that don't dissolve, so it will get settled down to the bottom of the container. So this process is what we called a sedimentation. Sedimentation, that a heavy insoluble solid which do not dissolve with water tends to settle down to the bottom of the container or riverbed. Okay, this process is called sedimentation. So this is one of the process where, if this is a container, okay, and this is the water, and if this is the water, okay, if we mix the thing, either this you can say the rock, okay, boulders or rock, stones, pelt, and this is the sand. So in this case, what we can see is, the water is there, and the solid, insoluble heavy solids are settled down in the bottom of the container. So this is the sedimentation process. So this is one of the process, okay, of separation of heavy insoluble solid. Now next is another process called decantation. So sand is insoluble in water and is heavier than it. It can be separated from water by allowing it to settle. In this case also, what we can see is sand, okay, again we'll make a container. So in this case also, sand, which usually don't get dissolved in the water, okay, is now settled down at the bottom of the the container. So the water that remains above, okay, this is the water that remains above, okay. What we can do, the water can slowly be poured, okay, and this water can slowly poured into another container, okay. So another container, leaving behind this sand, insoluble sand. So this process of pouring of liquid out of slowly into another container is called the decantation. Okay, hope you get this thing. And now next process is the application, okay. So where we can apply these two things, for sedimentation and decantation. Sedimentation and decantation are commonly used in our daily life. These two techniques are used to remove dust and chemicals from pulses and vegetables. Pulses and vegetables where we wash them before cooking, and these processes are used to clean water wet before it is supplied to home. So in this case of this third application, cleaning river water. So please, one of the things that I want to say is, please refer your book, okay, content book, page number 44 for this diagram. So what we do is, what basically happens in this case is that river water, okay, whatever the river water from the river, okay, the water, now you can just see that there are the three thing out here. So now what will happen is, the river water, it is put into the sedimentation process. Now you know this, what is sedimentation process. The heavy boulders, okay, will remain down there, and only the water, the above water will be there now, so to separate the heavy boulders and the water. So now next what happens is, this again water is transferred, okay, decantation happens again here. The clean water before, okay, water from river is collected in a tank where all the heavy and insoluble materials like sand, mud and other occupants settle down bottom of the tank due to sedimentation. The water that collects on top of the pewter is decanted into another tank. So from here again it is taken for the decantation. Meaning this water is now put into here, okay, all the water will be here, leaving behind the sand and the boulders and the stones, okay. So but in another case, this is the sedimentation, now here decantation, but later also what happens is, for the decantation also filtration is also used, okay. Filtration means all the sediments are filtered in this case, okay. So these three process, please refer the book for this three process of filtration or sedimentation to remove heavy insoluble impurities from river water. So from the river water, what happens, from the river the water is taken out, it is put into the process for the sedimentation, where they will separate the water and the boulders or the sand particles, mud particles, okay. From there it has been taken to another process, that is decantation, that the water, okay, water on the top of that thing, all these sediments, okay, it is been poured into another container, okay, with the help of the process known as decantation, okay. And in case of this river water, purifying river, filtration of river water, filtration is also done, okay. Again it is taken for the filtration, where all the sediments, okay, the remaining sediments are being taken out, filtrated, okay, for the final process. So this is the application. Now in the process of separation of light insoluble solids and liquid, now what happens is, some solids are insoluble in liquid and are lighter than the liquid, okay. Now we talked about the sedimentation, we talked about the decantation. In this process now what happens is, the insoluble heavy materials has been processed out, it has been separated out. But what about the light insoluble solids, light insoluble that floats around the water, okay, container? So some solids are insoluble in liquid and are lighter than the liquid. When such solids mixed in liquid, it floats, isn't it? If we talk about the sawdust, okay, sawdust, basically what happens is, it is light, so it floats in the water. So how we will separate it? So there should be another process, no? So let us see. So can this insoluble solids component be separated by sedimentation, decantation? Yes or no? Can we do it by sedimentation, decantation? Because in case of sedimentation or decantation, what happens, we are separating the big boulders, sands, the heavy insoluble solids that has been settled down to the bottom. But which process we are going to use in case of in lighter insoluble solids which floats? So let's see. So the process is known as the filtration. Now the mixtures of light insoluble solids in a liquid are separated by filtration. The mixtures of light insoluble solids in liquid are separated by filtration, okay. So the mixture of insoluble solids are separated by filtration. So what is filtration? So basically in chemical labs and all, we use filter paper to separate these things, okay. And basically in our home, what we use is, okay, while preparing that while separating the milk from that, the preparing in the chena, that is the cottage cheese, what we call it, no, cottage cheese or paneer. What we use muslin cloth or a sieve for preparing tea, and filter paper basically we use in the chemical labs and all. Okay, so the liquid, which is made from solid smaller particles, passes through the filter and can be collected in a container. Now basically, if there is a container, if this is the science container, okay, there's a flask, conical flask. No, wait. If this is the conical flask, okay, we put a cork where we will put the filter paper out here in a conical shape. Okay, in a conical shape we will put the filter paper. So when we pour liquid out here, okay, with that light insoluble solids, what happens is that the water get here, the liquid, and those insoluble solids will be here, will remain here. Okay, so it will not get down there, but the filtered paper will absorb these things. Okay, these tiny insoluble things out here. So this is how we can separate these two things. Another process, you know, that we use sieve. Okay, what we call in local language or in Nepali chalni. Okay, isn't it? So this is the chalni, this is the sieve where we put the tea. Okay, so all the things will be get stuck here. The only thing we get out here is the liquid, isn't it? So another thing is muslin cloth. Okay, this is a piece of cloth. We will put the milk, that thing, and we will wrap it up. So now what happens is all the liquid will drain out here and the remaining solid will stick here. Okay, so this is how we do filtration. So the solid particles, now the solid particles cannot pass through the filter as they are larger. They are collected by the filter and are called residue. The solid particle that has been left, okay, after separation using the filtration process, the whatever the solids that has been left out, it is what we call the residue. The liquid collected after filtration is called the filtrate. Filtrate means the liquid that is collected after filtration. So residue and filtrate is different thing. Okay, the solid thing, this is the residue, and filtrate is this water is the filtrate. Okay, if this is a container, this is the liquid. Okay, this is the liquid, so what we call it filtrate. So if this is a piece of cloth and the residue is here, this is what we call a residue. Down here water, it is the filtrate. Okay, so one of the steps in the purification of water is filtration. Like earlier I said, one of the process of purification of water is the filtration. After sedimentation, the water is passed through the filters to remove lighter soluble particles. Okay, after sedimentation, what happens is all the heavy solid insoluble things are removed, then it is taken to the filtration for the lighter one. So after that, the lighter one is removed. Okay, where the lighter one is removed, it has been taken to the decantation. So can we separate soluble solids from the solution of mixtures? Now what can we separate soluble solids? Soluble solid means in case of the previous thing, either the heavy solid or the light solid, they both were insoluble. So we can see it, we can touch it, we can feel it. Okay, so that was the thing. But in this case now, can we separate soluble solid? Soluble solid means the solid that has been dissolved in the liquid. Okay, that forms a solution. It has been mixed or dissolved, and now we can see it there. Whether it is present or not, we can only taste it and we can say, oh yeah, this thing is here. Otherwise we can't say, we can't touch, we can't feel it. We can only taste it and say, oh yeah, it is present or it is absent. So now how can we separate these soluble solids? So can we separate sugar from, example is, okay, can we separate sugar from milk by sedimentation, decondition or filtration method? So these three the basic process that we learned or we discussed earlier, that sedimentation is one thing, decantation is one thing, and filtration is one thing. And these three process is used on the basis, okay, only in case of the heavy or light insoluble solid. But what about the soluble solids? So can we separate soluble solids from the solution or mixtures? Can we separate sugar from milk by these three process? No, we cannot separate this sugar from milk or salt from water with the help of sedimentation, decantation or filtration. So now we need to use another process. Okay, so let us know what this process is. So the solids that are soluble in liquid are separated from the liquid by a process known as evaporation. So now this other process to separate, okay, soluble solid from this solution. Okay, from this solution, the soluble solid can be separated out from the process known as evaporation. So we use the process evaporation. What is evaporation? So whenever we heat, okay, a liquid, a solution, okay, so the liquid changes into the vapor when heated, isn't it? And so this is the basic evaporation. So when the liquid changes into the vapor, this is the process called evaporation. Now when the liquid changes into vapor, so this is called evaporation. So now this is the evaporation. So how we will use it in separating solids? So what happens is, when a solution is there, okay, with salt, or we can say the sugar and a milk, or sugar and a water solution, salt and water solution. Now when we apply heat, what happens, that liquid changes into the vapor, and the solids which is behind or which is mixed there will be left behind. Okay, and this left behind solids is known as the residue. Okay, now hope you understand this thing now, this much. So what if you want both the solid and liquid to be separated and collected from the mixture? So now in case of evaporation, what basically happens is that only the liquid is converted into the vapor. That is the evaporation. So what if we want both the liquid and solid to be separated or collected from the mixture? So how we'll do is, if the vapors of the liquid are cooled after evaporation, the liquids can also be obtained. Okay, so the vapors that the liquid is converted into the vapor, now if it will actually get mixed into the air or it will go out. Okay, so after that we cannot do anything. But if we want to collect the vapor, can we do? Yeah, of course we can collect the vapors. Okay, so now the process of separating a solid liquid mixture by evaporation followed by condensation is called a distillation. Now to collect the vapor, okay, the liquid changes into the vapor. Now to collect that vapor is how we collect, when we put a lid on while boiling or heating that solution. Okay, so once we put the lid, what happens, the vapor will once we put okay, if this is a container, sorry, if the if this is a small container, and when we put a heat here, okay, it is the heat. So what happens, this is a liquid, okay, vapor goes up here. So once if we put a lid here, okay, if we put a lid here, what happens, all this vapor will get stuck in this thing, okay, this lid. So what happens is, now this lid contain liquid droplet, liquid drops, okay. So now what is this liquid drops is, okay, what this liquid drop is means that a liquid is converted into the vapor, and now when we put the lid, it goes into liquid drop, and that is again a liquid, okay. So now we get that liquid and so that vapor in a liquid form again. So that is, this is how we will collect a liquid or vapor into vapor, okay, when we are heating. So this is the, and this process of, okay, is known as the condensation. So the process of conversion of vapor or gas to liquid. So what is condensation? Okay, now here again, liquid to vapor is, what is this? Evaporation. Now again, this vapor into liquid is condensation. Hope you understand this condensation process now, which is we are applying here, okay. So now there is, and the process of separating, okay, while the process of separating with the help of condensation, okay. So now this total process is what we call distillation. Distillation is a process where we will separate the water, okay, into a pure form, purest form. So this is the distillation. So how distillation can be used to separate mixture of salt and water. The mixture is poured into flask and heated, okay. A mixture of salt and water. Now in this case, now see, if a mixture of water and salt, okay, salt and water is here, when it is heated by 100 degree Celsius, okay, 100 degrees Celsius, and the vapors are cooled, okay, we use this as a flask, okay. So now if this is a flask, this is the temperature, okay, and from flask there is another condenser, and this is the another container, okay. So now this is the thing. Now see what happens is, again, this is a container, okay, this is a thermometer, and from here we put a collecting tube, it's a cooler, okay. Now this collecting tube, there is another container. So now what happens is, okay, here is a solution, mixture of salt and water. When we apply heat, okay, so when we apply heat, the mixture is poured into a flask and heated to 100 degrees Celsius, okay. This is the heating. The vapors are cooled, okay, and passing through them a condenser. Salt is left when the residue in the flask, okay. Now what happens is, when we put heat, okay, all the waters will get a rise here as a vapor, and it will cool off here, and all this vapor here will get collected as a liquid in this container, and this is the cooler condenser, okay. So now what happens is, all the salts will remain here, all the liquid will be here. So this is the process of distillation. So please go through the book. Okay, if you don't understand, please let me know. So distilled water is made using this process for many purposes, including for use in laboratory experiments, in medical facilities, and for automotive use, such as car batteries. Please ask your parents what is car batteries. Okay, where we use distilled water. Please, they will explain you what is car batteries, how it looks like, and no, you all know that there is a car battery inside the car. So please go through it once. Okay, just for curiosity or for the knowledge only, just know what it is and how it works. So how they charge it, basically the car batteries. So many brands of bottled waters also contain distilled water. And do you know that rain, okay, rainwater is actually a distilled water, but what happens is, due to the smoke, dust, and other harmful particles in the atmosphere, it makes the rain impure. So now there is another process after condensation. There's another process you can see out there. Okay, it is the centrifugation. Some soluble solids which have slightly bigger particles can be separated from liquid by churning or rotating a mixture. Okay, so this method of separating solid is called a centrifugation. So what happens in centrifugation is that okay, some solids that is mixed out there, okay, we can separate it out, okay, from a liquid by churning or rotating a mixture at high speed. That is, we call it centrifugation. Basically, we use this thing in science laboratory, okay, while testing. So even at our local area or our native place, basically in the village side, okay, to prepare a cream or a butter, okay, we use this process. So please ask your parents, okay, in our earlier times, okay, during ancient times, how our grandparents or ancestors used to prepare this butter or cream, okay, with the help of this centrifugation. But nowadays, okay, there's a centrifugation. We have machine, okay, we have machine technology is there, so they used to do it. But in ancient times, or in during our grandfather or ancestors, how they use it, please uh, ask your parents and know about it. Okay, so centrifugation is that it's high speed, okay, that rotates and it churns out, separate out the liquid and the solid thing. So choosing the best method, okay, so this much in this, but these are the different process, okay, that is filtration, sedimentation, decantation, centrifugation, evaporation, condensation. These are the different methods, okay, we use. Sometimes we use it alone. Sometimes what happens, there comes a situation where we have to use different process together. Basically, for example, a mixture of sand and water, what happens is we are using not only the sedimentation process, but we also use the decantation process, okay. Together with decantation and sedimentation, we also use filtration, evaporation, or even distillation. So according to situation, different situations, okay, what we do is we use either the one process or two process, or sometimes together we use this process together to separate the solid, insoluble, or light insoluble, or soluble solids from the liquid or the solution. So the most appropriate methods are sedimentation, decantation, okay, where we basically use in our daily life. Centrifugation is, that is right nowadays there is a technology, okay, there's a machines for the centrifugation and all, but earlier times we use it manually with the use of that thing, wooden things and all, okay. So a mixture of two or more solids in a liquid can be separated by choosing a combination of appropriate methods, okay. So this chapter is all about this separating solid liquid mixtures. So today we discussed in this case is the sedimentation process, decantation process, filtration process, and then we went through the condensation process, evaporation process, distillation process, and the centrifugation process. So if you don't understand any of the thing, if you got any queries, okay, please let me know. Thank you. Study well, stay safe, and keep learning.